Working in RCA wasn't all peaches and cream. Now, one of the things that could happen is you'd be sitting there, and we had very poor lighting. There was fluorescent lights, but it was an old Thomas Edison building that made lamps, and it got sold to GE, and then GE split or something, and RCA was formed. So it's an old maybe 1918 building, something like that. It's all asbestos. It's got asbestos mixed with the cement, asbestos paint and whatever, fireproofing, whatever. So it's an old building. So you had these wacky protocols. So you'd be sitting there and it would start to get dark outside, and it's not supposed to be dark outside. A bad storm's coming. And RCA was a 3-story building. It sat pretty high up on the landscape. So you knew if the storm got bad, the power was going to be hit and it might go out. And if the power goes out, thousands and thousands of tubes have to be either put back up, a new test, or the engineers would come in and they'd make concessions and stuff. So anyway, you're sitting there, and I turn to Joe and I say, "Hey Daddy, it's getting dark." And he starts laughing. He's smoking his pipe, he's laughing. And it's getting towards 4 o'clock, quitting time. And this is the worst possible time that you could probably lose power. So anyway, a lightning strike hits, the power goes off, and I want to tell you, when the power goes off in RCA, everything's turned on and off by relays from these clocks. All the tubes are cycled on and off. Sometimes they're on for 15 minutes and off for 5. There's all different cycling times. There's all kinds of chart recorders monitoring all the voltages. And the lightning bolt hits, everything goes dark, but before it goes dark, you hear this giant AC hum of the relays that are, as they start coming off the contact. Hey! Worse than that. It'll make you put chills down your spine. Now the power's off. Now the countdown goes. You can't do anything in the dark. Well, you can see because we have windows. But you sit there, and actually, first thing that happens is, and then you have to get up and go stand in your spot. And the boss would come out and look up and down the aisle, and everybody in the department had to stand in a certain spot so he could tell that you weren't hung up on the electric somewhere. All right. Then if somebody was missing, somebody had to go check the bathroom. All right. And then another person had to walk around and check the racks, make sure nobody was hung up. That was the rule, okay? But in this case, the power comes back on, and then up come the engineers, and they're looking at certain tests, and the two girls are like melting down, Maria and Agnes. They know that they're going to have to stay and take some tests down, and I would go up there and help them. You take the test down, it has to go to another room and test it. And if it's a certain parameters, it can go back up. There's all these different situations depending on the tube type. Okay? Now that's a power fail. Okay? You got to stand in your spot. You hope the power comes back up within a certain time, because if it comes up within a certain time, only certain tests have to come down and be retested and then put back up. And sometimes during the day, on a hot summer day, the power can go down, come back up, tests come down, they get retested, put back up, and it happens a second time. Okay? That's all part of the business. All right? Now, there's another thing that can happen. You can have a fire. All right? So now, picture this. I'll set the stage. Friday, you got an hour for lunch. And the reason you got an hour for lunch is they would give you extra time for lunch if you went and got your check cashed and came right back. See, what the girls were doing, if you paid them on Thursday, they would leave at lunchtime and cash your check and not come back. So they made a deal with the girls in the factory that we'll pay you on Friday, but you won't get paid for the full hour of lunch if you come back. So everybody came back for lunch on Friday, but we had to have lunch on Friday. So lunchtime comes and everybody frickin' disappears. So I start walking to go to the cafeteria, and I hear a fire alarm go off. And I look around, there ain't nobody there. And here's what was on fire. I had this engineer come up to me, and I had every test bed almost going that I could have going because we were getting ready to close down. We needed the extra stock in the warehouse. I had to redo a lot of tests from the guy that had the job before me. He was cheating on the tests, and they figured that out. Well, anyway, so I'm running extra tests. I got all the test beds up there. I got a shipment of test beds from Woodbridge, New Jersey that was sort of closing down. So I had extra parts, extra chassis. This engineer comes over to me. He goes, I got these six LQ6s or 6LD6, whatever they were. They're high voltage output tubes. Sort of look like this. And they were high voltage output tubes. They went along with a 3 AC or 3C3 color TV set horizontal output tube. And on the bottom of the tube, when you looked at the pins, there was like on the glass, there was like this black soot stuff. And that was to prevent it from corona. In certain conditions of atmospheric conditions of moisture, temperature, a 6LQ6 could, by these certain pins on the bottom, corona would form, like a flame, of static flame. And after a while, it would eat away the glass at the molecules, and the tube would go air. So this guy come up with this stuff you put on the bottom between the pins, and it would slightly discharge this corona effect. So he needed to put more up. He was trying to get the formula just right. So he come over and he goes, I know you're running a lot of extra tests. I know you're doing tests because the other guy screwed up. You got more workload than you should have. I said, what do you need? He says, I need 10 more chassis to do these things. And he's showing me the tube. He's explaining to me on the bottom of the tube that this corona discharge thing. He's trying to get how much you have to put on each tube, whatever reason. So I go over and I show him this other section. It's dead. And I said, it's got the same plugs in the back. You slide the chassis in, it's got a Jones plug on the back of the chassis. You put the chassis into the back, it meets up with a thing. I said, I'll try. I said, I got some chassis in from Woodbridge. I'll go through them. I'll try to get this rack system up running. And I went and troubleshot it. I think it was 600 volts on that chassis. And it was at 3. I called Joe over. We moved some jumpers. We double checked everything. Now I have 20 spots that I can put tubes up, more than I already have. So I start redoing the chassis from Woodbridge, and as I'm fixing each one, I put a tube in it, I plug it in. So it's Friday, and we're back to that. It's Friday. Everybody's run to lunch. I start going to the cafeteria, and a fire alarm goes off. Now, there's nobody around. So I walk over to where the light is blinking and the noise is coming from, and it's that chassis that I put up for the engineer. And one of the coils, the flyback, is on fire. So I pull the power down, off, and the flames go out. And I open the rack up, which is interlocked. So the power's off, you have the interlocks undo. I pull that chassis forward, which disconnects the Jones plug in the back. I disconnect the 6LQ6, and I plug it in one of my spare chassis down below in the next row. And I close the interlocks and I put the power back on. And I stand there for a few minutes. All of a sudden, out comes this guy, this heavyset guy, and he can't talk because he's out of breath from running up the stairs. And I realize he's the guard. Now, anytime the alarm goes off, which I shut off after I realized that the fire was out, I shut it off. And he starts trying to yell at me, but he can't because he's so overweight. He just went up 3 flights of stairs. And I'm standing there and I'm like, what's your problem? Dude, what's your problem? And it's like he's trying to say to me, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. I said, dude, these are my chassis. This is my test bed. This is mine. It was on fire. I shut it off. I put another one to test this back up. So I'm standing there, and now in comes the dandy. Someone must have said to him, over in your building, the alarm went off. So he comes back from lunch ahead of time, and he starts going after me. You know, you're supposed to, if you put the fire out, you're supposed to call back down to the guard and tell him he doesn't have to come up. I said, I wasn't at that stage. What? I'm going to tell you just what happened. So I tell him the story. He's just staring at me. I said, dude, I don't know I put the fire out. I turned the power off and the flames went away, but I'm still standing there, and I moved my tube, and I'm going to stand there for maybe a half hour, make sure nothing else goes wrong. Well, in comes his boss, back from lunch ahead of time. It's Friday. Everybody gets an hour, but everybody starts showing up. So somebody called the union guy on me. He's touching the test bed when it's lunch hour type of thing. Well, they tell me the union guy's coming up, and I'm like, this is going to be funny if it's Tony, because I buy all the raffle tickets for Tony's church all the time. So in comes Tony. He just gives me the nod, like, this is going to be fun. So I'm standing there, and the dandy's going off, like, you're not allowed to touch this. This is the protocol. And the big boss is just standing there. I said, I'll go over this one more time. I'm going to lunch. I'm new here. Okay? Only there a few months. And alarm goes off, fire alarm. So I walk over there, and I throw the breaker off. They have the handle you pull down. And I said, I got to check if it's still working. I said, the flame went out. I said, I disconnected the tube and put it in another chassis and fired everything back up and stood there. I'm still here. I didn't walk away. I was waiting for someone to come by to maybe relieve me so I can go to lunch. So in comes the engineer, and he's all upset. He's like, oh, man, if I have to redo this test again. I told him, I said, no. I said, it was only off for like a minute. You're kidding. I said, no, it's not off. They're all on. And the big boss isn't saying anything. I just knew that each chassis had a nozzle that came down on it. And this nozzle was supposed to be blowing cold air on the flyback, because during the summer it got really hot. Well, the air conditioning system went bad, and the big boss never paid the money to fix it. So this tube is under test at how many volts would it be? 27,000? Yeah, 27,000 volts. And it's a black and white flyback from the old days. And the dandy starts going, we never had fires in the old days. I says, yeah, you had brand new flybacks. You were running them at 19,000 volts black and white. And he's just staring at me. And I don't know if he actually worked on the bench, but I'm standing my ground. I'm like, no. I just start saying, no. I ain't going to take this. No. I said, oh, by the way, I'm going to lunch. And I leave the engineer standing there. His test is still up. The guard is all pissed off because he's out of breath. He can't climb 3 flights of stairs. Okay, the dandy doesn't like what I just pulled. The big boss is keeping quiet, and there's somebody else still there, the union guy. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what I did because I bought a bunch of raffle tickets from him. I have to do something really bad before he's ever going to make a decision. So he basically says, I don't see a problem here. He basically says to me, well, how close to your lunch break? I said, well, they gave us an hour on Friday. I said, I started walking to the break. I don't know if it was still company time. I didn't look at the watch. I didn't have my watch on. Sorry, I'm going to lunch, So he just waves it off like this. We're out of here. So he leaves. He's walking with me. He's just laughing. He goes, they're upset that you put a fire out. I said, yeah. I said, I really didn't put the fire out. I said, I just turned the voltage off. I said, that was my chassis. Anything happens to that whole area, I got to come up with another place to put that test. And I'm running out of places to put the test. I ain't taking this shit. So I go down and I take my lunch for a full hour. I come back up, and Joe next to me, I showed you in the last video, Joe Torrani, he goes, Gordon left something for you in your drawer. So I open the drawer, and it's a free meal ticket. And then the other guy's like, free meal ticket? We never got one. They never scored a free meal ticket. Well, he felt that I went beyond reasonable duty. No, I guess other techs would stand there and watch it burn. Not me. I know that I have to clean that mess up. All right? So I got a free meal ticket out of it. And the free meal tickets kept coming after that. Okay? But here's one of the things I wanted to tell you about Joe. I would go down to the cafeteria, and I get in line. And I get up there, and the woman says, you ate all that food I gave you? Yes, I said, none of that food went to waste. That was the absolute truth. Okay? The real truth is when I took my tray and my utensils and my plate up to my desk and was eating, Joe had a plate and a knife and a fork and a spoon, and I would just trowel the food off the plate onto his plate. And the woman, I always talked them up when I was coming out. The other people would just get in line. They'd never say anything nice to the people serving the food. And you know me, I'm very chatty. And they'd say, hey, give me extra. And the people would be all pissed off. And they'd say, I was 20 years old. They'd say, he's a growing boy. He needs to eat better. And they were all pissed. Well, that food, I would go upstairs and I'd come in and Joe would be sitting there with his knife, a fork, and spoon, and his bib. He had like a put a napkin bib on. He was like smiling, and I come over and a woman gave me so much food I couldn't eat it all, and it would just go on his plate. And then the guy that used to talk 3 times, talk 3 times, talk 3 times, talk 3 times, he'd be all pissed off. They don't give us that much food. Blah blah blah. I said, yeah, shut up, you know. But I just want to tell you, the place was like no other. That's why here, I can't tell these stories. They don't believe any of them. But like I said, I'm walking to lunch and the fire alarm goes off. And that's the first time I heard it go off. And I walk over there and it's my chassis burning. And I'm like, holy crap. So I know about the safety interlock. I could have just opened the 2 doors and it would have shut everything off. But the flames would come out even more. So I pop off the main. It's a gray box with a handle on it. You pull it down, and the flames went out immediately. So I open the 2 interlock doors. I pull the chassis forward, which disconnects it. I take there was a 6LQ6 out, put it in another chassis, push that one forward into the interlock, and power it all back up. Stand there. I'm standing, and that shit just starts coming. You know, the guard. It's like I'm laughing in his face. And then, he's trying to talk. He can't talk. He just climbed 3 flights of stairs. He's like 500 pounds. It's like, I'm just going to stand there and stare him down. Now who's the next one to come over? Oh, the dandy, maybe. He got called back from lunch. Yeah, see, the bosses ate in a different section in the cafeteria. They wouldn't sit with us. And they would get messages from, like, the guardhouse. They'd know how to locate someone at a certain time. And then they'd come up, and they weren't happy because they got interrupted during lunch. But they're standing there, their lunchtime is ticking away, and I'm standing there, I haven't gone to lunch. So after I tell my story, the union guy ain't gonna do shit to me and all that, and the engineer's happy, his test is back up, and and I tried to tell the big boss, maybe that flyback wouldn't have gone bad if the air conditioner was working on it. It is a hot day. And then the dandy, he's like, I never had one of them go on fire. And I'm like, yeah, that's 30 years ago when you might have been on those chassis. I don't know what he actually did in RCA. He would say back in my day, but he never worked on it. Well, you're talking a flyback that's 30 years old and you're running it at 27,000 instead of 19. You got to expect one to go up. And then after that, we started getting them every so often. One would go up, and you come in the morning, and the guard was doing what I did. He would shut just that row off. And you come up in the morning, and the dandy would be pacing up and down, waiting for starting time. And I'd go over and I'd start working on it. I didn't care what time was it. 5 more minutes to start time? No, I'm going to start it now because I want to get back to my seat and think about what I got to do for the day instead of a chassis gone on fire. But the flybacks would go on fire, and they're waxed. The flyback has wax on it, so the wax actually burns, and it gets going really good. But you shut the power off to it, and then sometimes you might have to blow it out. Okay, and that's what I would do. And then, like I said, the guard would come up, and you forgot to call the guard. You're supposed to call him and tell him he doesn't have to come up. Because the guard comes up. What he comes up for is he decides to call the fire department or not. By the time he gets to the top of that 3rd floor, the whole place, I used to kid, and me and Joe used to kid. I said, this place is going to go to the ground because it's old timber frame. Edison building, all big timbers. And it had like paint on the timbers and stuff, but those buildings go up and then they don't collapse because Edison used special cement after he lost a bunch of buildings in West Orange. He mixed asbestos in with the cement. The fireman told him the reason you lose the building is the heat makes the concrete expand, and he figured out how to make this special Portland cement or whatever, and then the building would still stand, and it could be rebuilt faster. It's like a cement shell, and you just put big timbers back in there to float the floors. And the floors are all wood. If one of them flybacks get going really good, and it goes out onto the floor, the whole building could go. But it's funny stuff. Like I said, when you work with RCA, they had all these protocols. Like when the power fails, you have to go stand in a spot, like in a prison movie, and look up and down. If someone's missing, you got to check the bathrooms first. But what happened was they claimed an engineer or electrician got hung up one day, and the power went off, and they're figuring out where the power went off, and they found the guy hung up, and that's what triggered the breakers to go. And then after that, they had this protocol, and there were a lot of protocols in RCA. It's like you're sitting there and you got to go vote. What? Union Day. You got to go vote. They come up to you. The union guy comes up. He says, get your ass out there. And they have a tent. They put up this big circus tent across the street in a parking lot. And you got to go over there. And they give you a hot dog, too. You have a hot dog and a soda. And you go vote. And then you could stand around and kibitz. You got a full hour to go vote. I tell people hear this stuff. This is bullshit. Yeah, okay. That's the way it was. I think that's it. All right, that's it.